Director for his campaign and the pleasure of introducing our speakers today. First of all, thank you so much for coming out to the St. John's Mary School today to be with us. This is the third stop for many of us today. We spent the morning in Stowe, and then we were up in Troy, Vermont at Dexter Randall's farm and had a wonderful barbecue. We're really, really glad to have the opportunity to get out and meet with all of you, so thank you so much. So our first speaker today is Jane Kitchell. She has been serving in the state senate since 2005, and she would like to have a little bit of time to talk to you. Jane, come on up.
Well, welcome to tonight's event. It's great to be here. I think if anybody's been watching television even a little bit, we know that this election is so important. And there's many, many issues. It kind of brings home the importance of our civics lesson around the separation of powers and the importance to have a good, strong legislative branch. And I think we're very proud that we have got such strong representation in Congress, and particularly tonight, Senator Sanders is going to be here. And I hope, encourage everybody and everybody you know to please get out and vote. This is really such an important time to participate. It's, as one member of Congress said, it's almost as though democracy is at risk as it relates to so much of what we're seeing happening. And it is certainly troubling when we see it on the national level, on the local level. We have it to some extent, and I think those of you who followed it, the Vermont legislature know we had an interesting session where we had several vetoes of the budget, and we had to come back. But once again, in my mind, that's a classic example of the importance of the legislative branch asserting itself as an equal branch of government. And that really is what Congress is going to be doing, and it really takes strong leaders and strong people who are willing to come forward. And I think there's no question that Bernie fits that mold, and then some in terms of the passion and his ability to really communicate and express that. Is that Lieutenant?
Yep.
Have you been introduced yet?
I'm a little later, but it's all good. I was just hanging out with everyone watching me.
I just sort of the warm-up then. So, I have the luxury of being unopposed, but obviously I've appreciated everybody's support and involvement over the years, and I hope you'll turn out and vote for me again this year. So with that, I just say thank you for coming. Get everybody out to vote. It's never been more important, and I think we can really be proud, and I really know that Bernie's going to continue to do a great job for us in representing the values and the importance of the people of this state and for the people of this country. So with that said, I don't know who I'm turning it over to.
Our next guest up is Dennis LaBounty. Dennis is running for Senate in state rep, in Caledonia 4. He has lived in Lyndonville for over 24 years, and for over 16 years he has served as a political director of the AFL-CIO here in Vermont, and has worked really hard to protect working Vermonters. Dennis?
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Senator Sanders for allowing me and the rest of us candidates to be here today. As Krista said, my name is Dennis LaBounty. I've lived in the Northeast Kingdom all my life except for about 3 years when I was working in Burlington. I was born and brought up in Barton. We've been living in Lyndonville for 25 years, and with my wife and I, we raised 3 sons there, and we are active members of the community. I have worked at various machine shops in the kingdom since 1978, and in Kennemetal in Lyndonville from 1993 to 2002. I know firsthand financial, employment, and health care challenges that many Vermonters face, as Diane and I have struggled to make ends meet at different times in our lives. Too many Vermonters are unemployed or underemployed, without health care or retirement benefits, and the economy recovery from the recession hasn't reached the kingdom yet. We need jobs with livable wages and benefits, affordable housing and health care, and paid family leave. We need to make college affordable for our kids and job training available for all ages. For the past 16 years, I have been at the Vermont State House advocating for these and many other issues to help working people in Vermont. I believe that my voice and my opinion can make a difference for the people in our communities, and I would be honored to receive their vote on November 6th. I have been at the State House, as I said, for 16 years advocating for minimum wage, paid family leave, and universal primary care. I can remember being laid off in the late 80s, early 90s, having 3 children, knowing what it's like to, go to bed at night and wondering if you're going to lose your house or your car. And so I know the struggles that many Vermonters have faced. I have been lucky enough to be able to continue my education so that I can get better paying jobs. And that's why I really believe that we need better paying jobs in the state. We need to keep the young people here, and I think that's one way to do it, is by creating good jobs and also to have minimum wage. Again, I hope that I can count on your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Next up, we have a state rep from Stannard, Chip Troiano.
Good evening, St. Johnsbury. Great to be here with all you tonight, and to welcome my longtime friend, Senator Bernie Sanders, and my friend, Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman, and host this great local event and some local candidates from the area. Dennis Lebowski is here. You just heard from him. He's from Lindenville. He's a representative of the AFL-CIO, and he spends much of his time in Montpelier. And as a result, he will enter his legislative term with a great deal of knowledge of the process, and he will be a great asset to the communities he represents. Scott Campbell you will hear from shortly. Scott is an energy expert. He'll hit the ground running and support Vermont's goal of energy efficiency in the future, with a priority to grow our economy. You'll hear from Jane Pompeo also. Jane's a local therapist, a local therapist. She and her knowledge and expertise she will bring to our state house addressing issues for our ailing mental health system. I'm Chip Troiano. I represent Hardwick, Stannard, and Walden in the Vermont House. When I was first elected, I was the first member from Stannard to be elected to the Vermont House in 50 years. And I'm running for my 3rd term now, and my priorities for the past 4 years have been elder Vermonters, veterans, and our children. And I've done much work on the opiate crisis, which has plagued our state for some time. I've known Bernie for many years. We share a few things in common. One is our affection for the tiny town of Stannard, Vermont. When I arrived there in 1972, where I still reside, it was not long after Bernie had left Stannard for Burlington and his long and successful career, which brings him here tonight. As our junior senator, from the great state of Vermont. During his career, he continued his affection for the town of Stannard, and that's come back many times. In fact, I hosted a house party for him when he was in his U.S. Congress race a number of years ago. He's come back a number of times for town hall meetings, which brought many people out, as he has tonight, and to hear Bernie's message for the people, which transcends party politics for many people. The other thing we have in common is our legislative agenda and policy and priorities, with a view of Vermont and our nation, which works for all of us, and not just a few. Livable wage, paid family leave, affordable health care for all, and affordable child care. All priorities which can assist young people to be able to pay off their student loans and afford to make the dream of owning a home a reality, and to remain in this and share the beauty of our state. We need to get out the vote and support our candidates. Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman is here. He's one of the hardest working people in Vermont politics today. Listen further. He gets up at 3 or 4 in the morning to harvest crops and pack for his farmers market and CSAs, and all while keeping his campaign schedule, which would make most of us tuckered out before the end of the day. In the past, he has intervened in a labor dispute in my district, which was resolved with a phone call in favor of an employee who was being discriminated against. We also share a political vision of a Vermont that works for all Vermonters. So let's get out the vote on November 6th and elect the candidates who will work for the people of Vermont. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chip. Up next, we have a Canaan resident, Martha Allen. Martha has served for 9 years as the president of the Vermont NEA, the Union of Professional Educators. She's taught in Vermont public schools for 30 years now. She's now running for state rep in the Essex-Orleans Caledonia district. Martha?
Good afternoon, everybody. Is anybody from Essex, Orleans, Caledonia? Woo!
Yeah.
You know, some of you are making the trip, well, some of you, it's only a little drive down the road, but for me, it's an hour and a half to get there. Anyway, I just want, first of all, we're here for Bernie, and I just really want to thank Bernie for his work. Obviously, we all know the advocacy that he's done around the country for working people. And I think it's up to us here in Vermont to support his effort and make a difference for working people in Vermont, and that's what I want to do as state rep. We here in the Northeast Kingdom need a stronger voice. I think that we get forgotten. I know that Chittenden County it's another part of Vermont somewhere, but it seems to have a louder voice than ours, and I think that we need to advocate for the most beautiful part of the state of Vermont. And one thing to do is to make taxation a little more fair. I'd like to get rid of the property tax and work on making that more income-based. I think we should be working hard, as we have in the past, but do some more work on expanding health care, coverage, making it more affordable for people. We need to encourage young families to come here, and they aren't going to come here if they don't have excellent public schools, number one. Number two, they won't come here if we don't have really good high-speed internet, and I think we really need to come here. I think everybody deserves a livable wage, proper health care, and a quality public education. I've been in Vermont for 40 years, over 40 years now. I'm a proud Vermonter. My great-grandfather served in the legislature, and I would be proud to follow in his footsteps. I appreciate your vote, folks. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jane Pompeo. She's a first-time candidate from Caledonia 3 and has spent over a decade working in community mental health.
I want to thank Bernie and Sanders and his committee for allowing me to participate this evening. And thank you for coming, and your enthusiasm and engagement and helps make this difference on November 6th. I'm running to represent St. Johnsbury in the Vermont House of Representatives to bring common sense and a different perspective to Montpelier. I believe that the legislature should include regular people. And I live and work and have raised kids in St. Johnsbury. And I would bring a different perspective to the legislature, a mother, grandmother, and mental health worker. I understand that the decisions made in Montpelier impact all of our lives and our community. And the job of a state representative is first to represent your values and the values of my community. I represent the needs of St. Johnsbury in supporting a livable wage, promoting access to quality child care in Vermont for Vermonters, voting to fully fund early child care education, which studies show help to reduce incarceration and other costs in the future. The coalition working to pass comprehensive paid family leave, which can be made a part of our employment system economically and fairly. I want to continue to push for our healthcare system to move away from a pay-for-service model and encourage Medicare for all. Most importantly, I believe it's a time to be bold in confronting the opioid crisis in order to heal with our communities. We need to stop approaching the opioid epidemic as a criminal justice problem and treat it as a public health issue. Emergency services clinician for a local human services agency. It's put me face to face with people dealing with substance use disorders, and often there's underlying mental health issues that people will often descend into addiction when they've lost their sense of belonging to a community and literally have not much to live for. And we need to lift these people up with effective strategies to address the causes rather than the symptoms of this disease. I support better treatment, media treatment, safe injection sites and harm reduction centers, treatment on demand, and recovery prevention, and reducing the criminal injustice. So, I feel that this will help people get out of crisis, and that we need, as a community, we have a responsibility to help people get out of crisis. I attended the this is Recovery Month, National Recovery Month, and I attended a little event this morning, and they talk about how that the opposite of addiction is connection, and I believe that.
Next up, we have a candidate for state rep from St. Johnsbury, Scott Campbell. Scott has built community for over 35 years as a contractor, program director, and volunteer. Scott?
Hello, everyone. How many people here from St. Johnsbury? All right, okay, Dan and I just want you to know. So I ran a couple of years ago, and came pretty close, but not close enough. And this year I'm serious about it, and you can tell that I'm the only one that was able to
Use the mic. Please
What?
use the mic. Can't hear you.
Can't hear? Oh, sorry.
But I've been thinking a lot about issues since running 2 years ago. My background is as a builder and building design and building science, so I had really sort of formulated an overall concept of public policy. And there are a lot of, obviously, really important issues: climate change, healthcare, affordable healthcare, and the opioid crisis. Obviously, these are all huge issues that are facing us. But I was trying to think about an overriding concept or an overriding theme that tied everything together. And what I came up with was really isolation is what's plaguing our society. And isolation has been sort of coming on with every technological change since cars replaced horses and recorded music replaced going out and listening to people play. And now social media is making it even worse. So my theme has really been thinking about what is the antidote of isolation, and what is the result of isolation. And I feel like isolation is caused by all of these things, and is also caused by poverty, by this great disparity in wealth between the rich and the poor. It's caused by addiction, and of course, it's caused by social media, as I said. So I feel like the antidote to that is connection. And connection is sort of, in a collective way, is really community. And so that became my focus and my theme for my campaign this time. I'm really thinking about how do we rebuild community. And I feel like rebuilding community is about investing in community and having the courage to invest in that community. A lot of other people in the political world talk a lot about taxes. And when I go door to door, people always talk about taxes. That's sort of the first thing out of everybody's mouth. And yeah, taxes are an issue, but I feel like we need to invest our resources into building the community so that we draw more people to come here and share the taxes that we need to sustain the community. So we need to invest in things like infrastructure, like broadband internet. I think we're finding that we need to make some progress with that, but we really need to get that everywhere. We're not going anywhere without broadband everywhere, I think. And other things like amenities, recreation and arts and culture. These are really important things to the next generation, to the younger generation, the millennial generation. So those are the things that I'm really focused on. How do we invest the resources that we have in a strategic and smart way in order to create prosperity? So that's my theme. That's what I think.
All right. Next up, we have someone who has been serving in the Vermont State House for over 2 decades. He was the first farmer to serve as Lieutenant Governor in almost 50 years. He's a champion for the environment, for workers' rights, and many other progressive issues that we've been fighting for. Up next, we have Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman.
Thank you, Krista. Some folks back there couldn't see through the lights, so that's what the little shout out to my finger was. At the last event, I had the opportunity, I want to say it again, thank you to our interpreters. We have a situation in our country right now that I think we all feel pretty upset about. Maybe I'm wrong, but on November 8th of 2016, when I was elected Lieutenant Governor, and I should have been jumping out of my shoes for joy. I was certainly happy about Vermont, but I was not very happy about our country and the world. I thought a lot about my daughter that night, 10 years old then, 12 years old now, and the Supreme Court. And I thought about climate change, which I could talk to you about for hours as a farmer, with the rains last year and the drought this year, and the effect it has far beyond my business's bottom line. But this is about our food supply. This is about your ability to have a self-sufficient garden and put up your own food, as people in the Northeast Kingdom do much better, Martha, than the folks in Chittenden County. So, you've got some advantages. You know how to do it here, right? And I had all kinds of ideas as Lieutenant Governor of what I was going to do about speaking out on water quality and addressing those issues on all sides of the state, whether it's phosphorus or nitrogen. There are issues on this side of the state with the Connecticut River as well. And I was going to talk about wages and people's ability to afford to live in our community, not because of the challenge of taxes, but because of the challenge of stagnant wages. And that the tax situation has benefited the wealthy like nobody's business, right? When America was great. Has anybody heard about that term? I think they were talking about maybe the 50s, and I'll admit I don't really remember that time. But at that point, our veterans from World War II, if you're white, you get loans to buy a home and you weren't redlined. If you're a person of color that served our country nobly and on behalf of all of our rights and our freedoms, you didn't get those loans. We have to remember our history if we're going to talk about injustice in the present. But also, when America was great, the marginal income tax rate on our wealthiest citizens in this country was up in the 70% range. They paid more because what they were making was on the backs of working people and on the investment in our roads and the investment in our rural telecommunication that everybody paid to make happen that made it possible for those businesses to thrive. They're forgetting that today. They have this, I made it, it's mine attitude. Well, we all make it together. And if they're not paying in, guess who does have to pay more? Everyday, hardworking Vermonters and U.S. citizens. And that night, all of this reality came crashing down. And what I've really tried to do with the office of Lieutenant Governor, and I don't know, raise your hand if you get my newsletter. Some of you might get it. If you don't, go to ltgov.vermont.gov and sign up, because we send out a newsletter every couple weeks during a legislative session with a little more detail on some issues. And I do a FaceTime every noon on Wednesdays about an issue for half an hour with folks. That's FaceTime's on Facebook, for those of you that don't know. But, and that's Zuckerberg, not Zuckerman. Some people do call me Mark, by the way. So I'll take the billions, but I'm not. But we do this to try to expand the opportunity for respectful discussion the way democracy is supposed to be. I put out that newsletter to say, here's some things to learn more about that are going on beyond the short news story. I've been trying to use this office to make sure democracy and the foundation that we stand on remains solid. While many of us, I think, feel it a little bit shaky under our feet. And, every day there's an opportunity to speak out about the national situation, but there's also opportunities here in the state. We have a governor that has vetoed over a dozen bills ranging from raising people's wages. Now wait a minute, I thought it was about affordability. Well, guess what? You could pay $50 more in taxes if you were making $500 or $1,000 more a year, right? There's two sides to the affordability coin. He vetoed the rights of citizens who were poisoned by industrial pollution in southern Vermont or anywhere in Vermont from having the medical testing of their health be paid for by the company that polluted their water, right? We have progress to make here in Vermont, as well as an example to show this country of what democracy is all about. And I want to reiterate, you have this lineup of great folks. Certainly, one of the most respected people in state government, your own Senator Jane Kitchell, Chair of Appropriations. Please give her a round of applause. And her incredible service to the state of Vermont. And she is unopposed. Now that's a good thing, okay? Not that anybody would be there. But you have some real opportunities to elect some folks that could go down to Montpelier and add to the thoughtful discussion. We'll be respectful of people with different perspectives and ideas. We'll work with colleagues across the aisle to take the best pieces of all the ideas and bring them forth so that we can move forward here in Vermont. Whether it's Dennis LaBounty, Martha Allen, Scott Campbell, Jane Pompeo, and I gotta say, you gotta help return Chip Troiano, an amazing legislator from Stanford, real friend of mine. Here's a guy who helped bring some carrots of mine up to the Buffalo Mountain Co-op from Montpelier when I was trying to go to Montpelier to work and get a delivery up there. He was more than happy to do that. It's true of most of your legislators, but Chip's a really standout individual. So, a lot of the issues are touched on. Opioids and opiates are a huge one. And we are falling down on the job. We're doing more than we were. And Jane has done the best she can on appropriations to get as much resources towards that challenge as possible. But when the governor presents a budget, after campaigning saying no new taxes and care for the most vulnerable, which, by the way, those two things don't usually work out so well. He introduced a budget that cut $1 million, I believe it was, I could be off with my numbers a little bit, from state resources helping people who are differently able to retrofit their homes to be able to stay in their homes. When Appropriations Committee has to find a way to refund and fund that, while finding funding for opiate treatment, while finding funding for child care, and the different needs that we have, they have an impossible job. And they did an incredible job. And they passed a budget that I believe was unanimous in the Senate, and had all but 14 votes in the House. And that was even when the governor was threatening that he didn't like that budget. Most Republicans voted for it. And we had a governor who stood in the way and vetoed the bill. And we had a minority party in the House, led by my opponent, changing their votes from supporting a reasonable budget that nearly everybody in the state could get behind, and instead becoming partisan, drawing a line with a party label, and saying, we're going to stand with this governor regardless of whether we actually liked the policy or not, which most of them did. That's a symbol of the DC model filtering into Vermont. We can turn that around. Those folks that spoke before me are out there door knocking, talking with people, and asking for your vote. But beyond that, in this room, I'm asking you to help them get more votes. I'm asking you over the next 6 or 7 weeks, as people all across the country are doing, whether it's Andrew Gillum in Florida, Beto O'Rourke in Texas, Stacey Abrams in Georgia, and incredible candidates all over the country working to get voter turnout up. Get young people engaged. Reach out to them. Reach out to your neighbors. Reach out to your homebound folks and help them get an absentee ballot. Spend some time rebuilding democracy over these next 6 or 7 weeks. And we can take the wave that really has to hit the rest of the country and make sure some of those waves lap up on our shores over here in St. Johnsbury and Caledonia County. That's what I'm here to ask you to do. Not just help me, but help change the makeup of the House so that they can't stand up to a good budget and clean water and opiate treatment and affordable housing and paid family leave and raising the minimum wage. Thank you for being here today. I have had a great pleasure and honor today and some time in the past to introduce our next speaker. And I got to tell you, back in 1992, when I was a cynical college student over at UVM, and for those of you that don't like me, you can blame UVM for bringing me to Vermont. And for those of you who do, you can thank UVM for bringing me to Vermont. But corporate money turned me off to politics. I could be down here, but all parties, corporate money up there. And I was an activist. And I was an activist on environmental issues, social justice issues, and other things. And there was this guy running for Congress who didn't take corporate money, who didn't think corporations should have a larger voice in the political process than people like you and me in this room. And he inspired me that actually democracy can work. If real people step up and run, if real people with conviction in their heart for the issues that matter to everyday people engage and run and put themselves on the line for the ridicule and the attacks, and there's few that have taken as many attacks as this next speaker. He inspired me to engage in the political process like nobody's business. And a couple years later, after helping a lot of other people run for office, someone asked me to run. And I lost. It does happen, folks. Sometimes you lose. But I dusted off my shoes, ran again 2 years later, and oddly enough, 20 years later, I'm your lieutenant governor. And what this is not the next one, but thank you. What Bernie Sanders has done in this country for the last 40 years, but how he inspired people these last 3 years, is what gives me hope for our future. Because if what happened to me happens all across this country, and we are seeing all across this country, young people, people of color, women running and winning all over the place, we do have an amazing future. And as I introduce Bernie, I want you to give him the biggest thank you welcome you possibly can, because he's giving all of us tremendous hope and has inspired so many people. Please, your Senator, Bernie Sanders.
David, thank you very much for the generous introduction. Thanks all very much for coming out. And let me thank Chip and Jane and Dennis and Martha and Scott for their remarks, and David. And let's do our best to make sure that all of them are elected or re-elected, in my opinion. What I want to do tonight is to say a few words about what's going on in Washington, which I expect is of some concern to you. And to tell you the bad news, which you are no doubt familiar with, but also tell you some good news that you may not be familiar with. The bad news is that in the White House today, we have a person who is a pathological liar. I say that without any joy in my heart. We're trying to be very partisan, but what is clearly the truth. And whether he knows that he's lying, or maybe more frighteningly, he doesn't know that he's lying, and he just sees things that nobody else sees, is the reality. And it's very hard. Sometimes when I go on television, somebody says to me, they say, well, what do you think about what President Trump said? I said, well, I can't really comment because I have to see what he says tomorrow. And half of the time, that's exactly true. He's reversed his position or whatever. Second of all, it's not only that you have a pathological liar who is president. You have somebody who's not particularly interested in public policy, doesn't know a whole lot about public policy. But thirdly, and maybe most significantly, I don't have to explain to anybody in this room that this nation has struggled with all forms of discrimination from the inception of this country. From when the first settlers came here and did terrible things to the Native Americans, to the abomination of slavery, to the terrible discrimination against women 100 years ago today. Women did not have the right to vote. Women could not get decent jobs. Women often had no protection when they were divorced. The discrimination against Asian Americans, the discrimination against the Italians, the Irish, the Jews, you name it. That has been the history of America. And what good people have tried to do throughout that whole period, from the abolitionists to everybody else, is to speak about the common humanity that we share and to fight those forms of discrimination. And the truth is that we have had enormous success. If we were here 20 years ago and I told you that we would elect an African American as president and re-elect him, you would not have believed me. If I told you that gay candidates were running and winning all over this country, or that significant numbers of women were running for every position and winning 20, 30 years ago, you would not have believed me. But we have made real progress in fighting all kinds of discrimination. And when I go out and I look and talk to the young people of this country, that is a group of people who are the least racist, least sexist, least homophobic, least xenophobic group of people in the history of this country. So we have made real progress in that struggle. Yet unfortunately, we have a president today whose main political goal appears to be trying to divide us up, trying to get one group of people to dislike another group, to be attacking immigrants, to be attacking African Americans, to be attacking Muslims. And I have to say that that is the most shameful situation that any president in modern history has ever performed. It is unacceptable, trying to divide the American people up for cheap political gain. But it's not only his social policies of trying to divide us up. His economic policies are also a disaster. And working with very right-wing leadership in the House and the Senate, as you all know, they attempted to throw 32 million Americans off of the health insurance that they have by repealing the Affordable Care Act. Can you imagine what happens to 32 million Americans who lose the health insurance they currently have? You have people who are struggling with cancer, with heart disease, whose life is dependent upon the health insurance, the Medicaid they have, and these guys wanted to take away that health insurance. And then also they came back after they lost that battle by one vote. And man, did we work hard on that one. We're all over the country. And thank God that John McCain cast the deciding vote, which prevented them from repealing the And then they came back, and at a time of massive, unprecedented income and wealth inequality, we got 3 people in America today owning more wealth than the bottom half of America, where you have 52% of all new income going to the top 1%, a middle class shrinking, millions of people living in dire poverty, the rich getting richer, and they decided that the most important thing they could do was to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% over 10 years. And then, on top of all of that, you have Trump coming forward with a budget, his last budget, which says we're going to cut Medicaid by $1 trillion over 10 years. You know what that means? That means not only taking away health care from lower income people and children, it means devastating nursing home care in America. Because if any of you have parents who are in a nursing home, there's a strong likelihood that Medicaid is paying that bill. Take away that protection, how are you going to take care of your mom with Alzheimer's? I don't know how you're going to do it. $500 billion proposal in Trump's budget to cuts in Medicare. $72 billion cut for the Social Security Disability Fund. So tax breaks for the richest people in America, massive cuts for programs that working families desperately need, and then trying to divide us up by the color of our skin, or our religion, or where we come from. That's the bad news of what we're seeing right now. And it is pretty bad news. It's unprecedented. But let me tell you some good news. And the good news is that ideologically, this country has moved forward in a progressive manner at the grassroots level in a very, very significant way over the last 3 years. I remember when I announced for president in the spring of 2015, it was a very beautiful day in Burlington. We had a whole lot of thousands of people out. And I kind of unveiled what I thought the progressive agenda was, what I would like to see happen in this country. And it's an agenda that, we modified during the course of the campaign, but basically we stayed with it. And when I announced that agenda, We had enormous criticism, not only from my opponents, not only from Democratic establishment and Republican establishment and all of the media. Sanders' ideas are too radical, too extreme, it's fringe ideas. Nobody in America believes these ideas. That's what initially happened. Well, something has happened over the last 3 years. And that virtually every one of those ideas that 3 years ago were seemingly radical and extreme are now supported by the vast majority of the American people. That is a major transformation. 3 years ago, we had the very radical idea that if you work 40 hours a week in the United States of America, you should not live in poverty. Now, how's that? I know that's an extremist idea. Imagine how radical that is. That people should not have to work in Vermont or any place else for 2 or 3 jobs in order to bring in the income they need to support their families, right? Rich getting richer, and yet working people working 2 or 3 jobs, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So we said that in America, we are going to raise the minimum wage federally, which is now at a starvation level of $7.25 an hour. Imagine anybody trying to live on $7.25. You do the arithmetic. Buy food, pay rent, do transportation, health care. Nobody does that. You can't do it on 8, you can't do it on 10. So we said we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour. And oh my God, when we criticize every editorial page in America, Sanders is crazy, you can't double the minimum wage, it's outrageous, it'll destroy the economy. Well, guess what happened? Right now, when I introduced that bill last year, we had 30 United States senators supporting it. More importantly, all over this country today, all over this country, states and cities are now passing and implementing legislation calling for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Guess what? I was in California a couple of months ago. We were asked to go to Disneyland. I have 7 beautiful grandchildren, but I didn't take them to Disneyland for the rides and to meet Mickey Mouse. I was asked to go there because this major American corporation, kind of an iconic corporation that we all know, were paying its workers starvation wages. So all these folks who are going around in Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck outfits were being paid $10, $11 an hour. They had terrible schedules. Some of them literally were sleeping in tents because they couldn't afford an apartment very expensive in Anaheim. And we worked with the unions there. And working together, we managed to get a contract that the minimum wage in Disneyland and in Disney World is now $15 an hour. As all of you know, the Vermont State Legislature, I want to thank Dave Zuckerman and all of the people in the legislature, passed a $15 an hour minimum wage, and we now need a governor who's going to sign that bill and not veto it. So the economic crisis in America, wealthiest nation in the history of the world, is that as we speak, unemployment is pretty low. That's a good thing. The bad news is that wages remain for tens of millions of workers at a level that people cannot support their families. And that is going to change. And by the way, when we talk about wages, we also can never forget that today women earn about 80 cents on the dollar compared to men for doing the same work. That is unacceptable. Our view is equal pay for equal work. So we are making progress. Ideas, minimum wage $15 an hour, that 3 years ago seemed to be radical extremists, now supported by a strong majority of the American people. That's progress. I'll give you another area where we are making significant progress. During the campaign, I said that we have to end the international embarrassment of the United States of America being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people is a right, not a privilege. Okay? Our neighbors to the north, you get sick, you walk into the doctor's office, you don't take out your wallet. You have cancer, you go to the hospital, you're in the hospital for 3 weeks, you do not take out your wallet. Today, in our country, we spend, I want you all to not forget this, when people criticize my legislation, we spend twice as much per capita on average as any other country on earth. So we have by far the most expensive, wasteful, bureaucratic, dysfunctional healthcare system in the world. I was just meeting with some doctors the other day. And the guy there who was the director of one of the lead doctors was saying many of his primary care physicians were very demoralized. They spent half of their life filling out forms and arguing with insurance companies when they want to practice medicine. Okay? So we spend twice as much per capita as any other country. You got 30 million people who have zero insurance. Many of you and millions of Americans are underinsured with high deductibles and high copays. So even when people have health insurance, they hesitate going to the doctor because they can't afford the copayment or the deductible. And we lose thousands of people every single year because they don't go to the doctor when they should, and by the time they walk into the doctor's office, it's often too late, or else they end up in the hospital. And then on top of all of that, we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. The same exact medicine in the same damn bottle that you buy here in St. Johnsbury is sold in Canada or in France or New Zealand for a fraction of the price. Because we are the only major country on earth that says to the drug companies, hey, you want to double or triple your rates? You can do that because there is no law stopping. You can charge anything you want, and that is precisely what they do. So when anyone tells you we cannot afford Medicare for all, they are lying. We are already spending far more than we should, and a Medicare for all single-payer program will guarantee health care to all people. It will improve health care for seniors. Let me give you an example. Medicare is a good and strong program, but as seniors know, it does not cover dental care, which is a big deal for seniors, does not cover audiology, it does not cover vision. And we need to improve that for seniors, and that's what my legislation will do. So the bottom line there is we have got to do that, and here's the good news. Despite all of the opposition from the insurance companies, the drug companies, every editorial writer in America, last poll that I saw last month, 70% of the American people support Medicare for all. There's another example, an issue that 3 years ago seemed to be a radical and crazy idea, but today is mainstream. All of you know we live in a highly competitive global economy, and that most of the good-paying jobs that are out there require a higher education. All right, that's not a radical concept. That's a simple reality. We know that to be true. And yet today, because of the high cost of college, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who do not go to college because their families lack the income. And then on top of that, you got millions and millions of people, so 40 million people, who did go to college and left school deeply in debt. And we're talking about graduate school, $100,000 to $300,000 in debt, college, $50,000, $100,000 in debt. Think about it for 1 second. Why should going to college result in financial difficulties for you for decades to come? Does that make any sense? It doesn't. So we've got to recognize that when we talk about public education in America, it's not just K through 12. It is making public colleges and universities tuition free and substantially lowering student debt in America. Now, that idea, when I introduced it, everyone thought that was a pretty crazy idea. Well, guess what's happening all over the country right now? You're seeing governors and mayors moving in that direction. Because when you think about it for 2 seconds, the world has changed from when I was a kid. You need higher education to get the good jobs that are out there. People increasingly understand that. Let me give you some other examples. And the point that I'm making is that we are moving as a country toward an agenda where people are coming together to demand that government works for all of us, not just the 1%. Give you a few more examples where we are making progress. Criminal justice. Some of you may know that today in America, we have more people in jail in the United States of America than any other country on earth. China is 4 times our size. It's a communist, authoritarian country. They don't tolerate dissent all that well. We have more people in jail than China does. Disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American. The war on drugs is now widely regarded as a failure. And what we are beginning to see all over this country is a rethinking of criminal justice. We are now seeing prosecutors and district attorneys getting elected whose job, as they see it, is not to lock more people up, but to reduce the prison population. And that, in my view, is a very good thing. And our job, it seems to me, for all kinds of reasons, for decency as well as financial reasons, is to invest in education and jobs, not jails and incarceration. All right? So we're making progress, state after state, including the state of Vermont, either decriminalize or legalize marijuana. Okay? There are other states and communities now which are moving to expunge the records of those people who arrested for marijuana possession. Because too many lives have been ruined. Kids go out and they're arrested for marijuana. They have a criminal record. They're going for a job. They can't get a job, and they're off into bad things. Right? We're making progress in criminal justice, a rethinking of mass incarceration, rethinking of the war on drugs. Here's another example. Some of you may know this. Some of you may not. I have to plead to tell you the truth. I did not know this a year ago. Right now, you've got about 2 million people in America in jail. It's a whole lot of people. About 40%, about 400,000 of those people, 20% of those people, you know why they're in jail? They're in jail not because of a crime they were convicted of. They are in jail because they were too poor to come up with bail. Did you know that? So you are arrested, and the judge says, okay, $5,000 bail. Well, what happens if you're poor and you don't have that $5,000? You stay in jail. There are places in America today, Missouri and elsewhere, where you can get a traffic ticket. You got a $500 traffic ticket, you can't pay that. You know what? You end up in jail and you stay in jail without being convicted, waiting your trial. How crazy is that? To be keeping hundreds of thousands of people in jail who are not convicted of anything, but are in jail essentially because they're poor. You remember Charles Dickens wrote about debtor's prison? Remember debtor's? That's what you got in America today. Very few people know that. That is part of criminal justice reform. So we got a long, long way to go to making some progress on that. Now, in another area, despite Trump's ranting hatred of immigrants, you know what the fact is? The fact is that the overwhelming majority of the American people, progressives, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, believe in comprehensive immigration reform. That's what people believe. That's not what Trump believes in, but that is what the American people believe. They understand that not only with the young DACA kids, we have 1.8 million young kids who have literally spent every day of their lives, they came into this country at 2 or 3 or 4, And now many of them are subject to deportation. Imagine throwing these kids out of the only country they have ever known. They don't speak Spanish in many cases. They don't know anybody in Mexico or wherever. They're as American as you and I are. This is where they live, where they've gone to school, where they served in the military. 80% of the American people believe that we should provide legal protection for those young people. So, my point is that in area after area, the vast majority of the American people, in fact, believe in an agenda that makes sense, that is based on decency, that is an agenda that works for working families. So then you might ask, intelligently enough, to say, well, people in America believe in raising the minimum wage. If they don't believe in giving tax breaks to billionaires, if they don't believe in throwing tens of millions of people off of health insurance, how in God's name do we end up having a Congress that does exactly the opposite of what the American people want? All right. And that is an important question. That's a great question you asked. Let me answer it. And the answer is, obviously, that you don't have a Congress that represents working families, low-income people, or middle class. You have a Congress that is significantly owned by wealthy campaign contributors. Now, you go to any city in America, any place, you go to the most conservative states in America, you go to Oklahoma, you go to Nebraska, you go to any place you want, and you ask people whether they support giving tax breaks to billionaires and cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Nobody believes that. That is the agenda of the majority party, the Republican Party in the Congress. And the reason is very clearly, they are not there to represent ordinary people, working people. They are there to represent the billionaire class and their wealthy campaign contributors. So then that leads you to the next question of enormous consequence, and that is a corrupt campaign finance system. All right. So right now, all of you have one vote, and I hope you will exercise it in November. You get one vote. Well, the Koch brothers got one vote too. But in addition to that, because they're one of the wealthiest families in this country, a right-wing extremist family, they get one vote plus $400 million to be spent to elect candidates all across this country who will represent the wealthy and the powerful. So you have a Citizens United Supreme Court decision by a 5-4 vote, which is there to undermine American democracy. And then on top of that, you got a Supreme Court by a 5-4 vote, voted to overturn a very important part of the 1965 Civil Rights Act. And the day after that Supreme Court decision, you had attorneys general in many Republican states, governors, working overtime to figure out, if you can believe it, how they can make sure that poor people, old people, people of color cannot vote. You believe that? Yep. These gutless wonders do not want to face the voters. What they want to do is make it harder for people who will vote against them to participate in the political process. So you got big money. So you want to know why we are where we are today in Washington? You got big money. Now you don't see it so much right now here in Vermont. But you go to states like, go to Missouri right now, go to Texas, go to many states, battleground states. Millions and millions and millions of dollars are coming in to be spent to protect or elect right-wing extremists who will do the bidding of the Koch brothers and the billionaire class. So what we have got to do is to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. We have got to move toward public funding of elections. All right? People can vote for me, you can vote against me, you can agree with me, you can disagree with me. But what democracy is supposed to be about is one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections, and not people making it harder for low-income people or people of color to vote. So we have got to do a lot of work. When I ran for president, we talked about two fundamental things, which I called, kind of lumped together, the political revolution. One was the progressive agenda, and I mentioned some of those priorities too. an agenda that speaks to the needs of working people and not the 1%. But the second part of that agenda, you can have the greatest agenda in the world. I can come before you and give you a list of 50 great things and you'll nod your head. But all of it doesn't mean anything unless we have people who are elected to office who are prepared to implement that agenda. So that speaks to the need to revitalize American democracy, to get people involved in the political process in a way that we have never seen before. But I want to tell you, you don't hear all that much about it, is that we are making real progress in that area. Out of my campaign came a group called Our Revolution. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. Okay. And actually, Shannon Jackson is somewhere back here. There's Shannon. Shannon is working with me on my re-election campaign. Shannon was the executive director of Our Revolution for over a year. Jeff Weaver, who is my campaign manager, was the head of it, and now a woman named Nina Turner is head of it. Nina's done a great job. And what you may know, and I'm sure you do know, is that you're seeing in important congressional elections strong progressives getting elected, taking on establishment candidates and winning. But what you don't know is that all over this country, you're seeing candidates running for state legislature, state senate, for school board, for city council, running and winning. And many of these folks are working class people, often they're women, often they're people of color. They are people who 3, 4, 5 years ago never would have thought about running for office. So what we are seeing now is in fact a political revolution. Voter turnout is beginning to go up. People are getting involved. People are running for office on a progressive agenda, and people are winning. So where does that take us to where we are right now? We're in 2018. We got an election in 6, 7 weeks. I cannot tell you whether nationally the Democrats will regain control over the House or the Senate. Nobody knows. It will be close in both chambers. What the experts are saying is Democrats have probably a likelihood of gaining control over the House. In the Senate, it will be a little bit more difficult. But all of this comes down to races where the polls show a 1 or 2 point separation, so we don't know what will happen. But our job now in the next 6 or 7 weeks is to do everything that we can to elect progressives to the state legislature here, to see if we can get a veto-proof legislature, to elect a Democratic governor, to re-elect David, and if you have friends around the country, to do whatever you can to get them out to vote. There are some tight races all over this country. So let me just conclude by saying that we are clearly in an unprecedented moment in American history, a very, very dangerous moment. You have an unstable president who is a liar, who has very strong authoritarian tendencies, who doesn't like a free media, who doesn't like an independent judiciary, who feels more comfortable with authoritarian leaders all over the world rather than our long-term democratic allies. That's where we are. But having been to many parts of the country and telling you that in the next couple of weeks I'm going to be in many other states in this country, doing my best to elect progressives, I am not unoptimistic about the future of this country. I think there is a waking up among the American people, a desire to move this country in a very different direction, a disgust with the movement of this country to an oligarchy, where a handful of very wealthy people control our economics and control our political life. So our job right now is not to fall prey to Trump's effort to divide us up. When we stand together, whether we're black or we're white or Latino or Asian, whatever we may be, if we stand together and fight not only for ourselves, but for our children, I think this country, despite Donald Trump, is going to have a very, very bright future. Thank you all very much.